Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live. I'm just going to make sure people can see and hear me. It doesn't seem like my microphone is working, so let me just double check. Yep, it seems to be. So we are here for Marketing Mondays. It's our very first Marketing Monday. I'm sorry, I've got a little hair in my eye and it's going to distract me the whole way through if I don't sort that out. The joys of glasses. So we're here. It's our first ever Marketing Monday. I'm very excited about it. I've wanted to do this for a while, but I've just not had the brain space to get it all planned and scheduled. So I'm excited to be finally here, and we are going to dive into marketing strategy. So amazing. Great to see some comments coming through that people can hear. So thank you heaps. I'm doing this through StreamYard, which is like a stream platform. That means I can do it into the Facebook group and also over to YouTube for people who don't have Facebook. So regardless of where you're joining from, it's great to have you here with me today. And I can't see everyone's names from Facebook because of the integration. So if I reply to a comment but I don't use your name, I'm ever so sorry. So basically, I've got a little screen share that I'm going to do with you to walk you through some marketing strategy basics. And then I thought I could take some questions. So you can feel free to ask questions in the comments as we go through the mini session. And really what I want Marketing Mondays to be all about is just a little bit of a more in-depth look at some of the things we've talked about over on my podcast. So if you haven't seen the Creative Business Marketing podcast yet, then I launched it in February. It's a 3-minute marketing pep talk each weekday. And a couple of weeks ago, last week we looked at SEO. The week before that, we looked at marketing strategy. So I thought that we could start with marketing strategy for today's Marketing Monday and basically just put some visuals to the audio and go into it in a little bit more detail, but with time for questions as well. So hope you are having a good day. If you're in the UK and you've got kids going back to school for the first time today, I hope that that went smoothly. I know there's been quite a lot of angst for some of them with with the changes and the change in routine. Yes, Robin, hello. I can see your comment. I'm about a minute in front of you guys. So when I reply to your comments, there's a little bit of a delay just because of the software. But here we are for Marketing Mondays, and I'm just going to make sure that I can share my screen with you because I've got a little bit of a visual situation to make life a bit easier when it comes to seeing how it all ties together. And I'm just pulling that up and then we'll get cracking. So hey Arctic Panda, good afternoon. Welcome to our Marketing Monday session. Okay, so now I just need to figure out how to share my screen. I've got a little Canva session. Bear with me a second. It says it's easiest with 2 monitors, but I only have one. So here we go. There we go. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. So excuse the pixelation. That's not very good quality, but welcome to Marketing Strategy for Marketing Monday. So this is going to be like 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes tops. Type your questions in the comment box as I go through and I'll answer them at the end, and we should all be wrapped up by 1 p.m. ready to go back to our desks with a bit of marketing pizzazz behind us. So what exactly is marketing strategy to begin with? So the two things that we will always have in mind as business owners are where we are right now in this moment, but also where we want to be in the future. And with creatives in particular, we are really good at thinking about where we want to be in the future. Like creatives are so good at having idealized ideas of what reality can look like. And so we're really good at imagining what things could be like often, but we can get caught up in the day-to-day weeds of running our businesses in the now. And then these two things feel like they're really far apart, and it's difficult to get from the sort of maybe customer service emails and packing orders and all of the sort of daily grind that you're experiencing now, or like hustling for clients, whatever kind of business model you've got. And it can seem like it's a really long way away from the reality that you would like to exist, which is your goal or vision for the future. So marketing strategy is actually the little bit in the middle that gets you there. So business strategy, marketing strategy, they're both needed. So our marketing strategy is what helps move our businesses towards the vision that we have for them. So it's something that's really important for us to think about. But when you are in the online space, you will see a lot of people who call themselves like marketing gurus or social evangelists and all of these kinds of slightly cringy, job titles that didn't exist like 20 to 30 years ago. And they'll be like, oh, you need to fix your marketing strategy and it'll fix all your problems. And you're like, great, okay, but what does that actually mean? So the reason that I wanted to start with this idea of marketing strategy is to just help us really clarify what the difference is between the two. So there's two types of strategy, right? So again, we've got where you are now on one side and where you want to be on the other side. And there's the big picture strategy is the thing that is keeping us moving in the right direction. So that big picture strategy is the general direction that we need to be moving in as we go through our day-to-day, our week-to-week, our month-to-month in order to reach the goal of where we want to be. And the problem is if we haven't thought about this part of strategy, what we can end up doing is taking daily action in our now that puts us on slightly wrong trajectory. I always struggle with that word, trajectory, for where we want to be in the future. And we can end up missing out or maybe not reaching it at all. So our big picture strategy is important to help us stay focused on the general direction that we need to go to. And then within that strategy, that overarching picture of where am I going to be in the future is individual channels. So individual marketing channels. So the other type of marketing strategy that people talk about a lot is this idea of channel strategy. So channel strategy refers to individual parts of our marketing and the approach we take to them. So for instance, we have things like social media, email marketing, paid advertising, search engine optimization, PR, affiliate marketing, the list goes on. But basically, those individual channels help us to continue moving towards our goals. But at the same time, we want to have a specific idea of how we're going to achieve a particular goal with one channel. So an example of this is that with email marketing, you might have a goal to get 30% of your revenue from your email list. So that means that with your email list, you create a plan of action that helps you get to the point where 30% of your business revenue is coming from your mailing list. So what that means then is when you add more people to your mailing list, your revenue will naturally increase because 30% of your revenue is coming from your list. So more people on your list equals more of a chunk of revenue. So these individual channels are the things that we think about in the day-to-day as well. So you might be on social media, for instance, and you're posting on Instagram, you're posting on Facebook, you maybe run paid advertising, maybe you have a newsletter and you send that out to people. But basically, each of these individual pieces of marketing is helping us move towards that big picture of where we want to be in our business. So when we understand this bigger picture, we can help troubleshoot growth in more detail. So if we're not getting the sales we want to see, if we're not getting the engagement we want to see, then it's not a big business problem. It's an individual channel problem. So instead of feeling despondent about the nature of our entire business, we can look at the one specific thing that we're currently not happy with and how we can optimize that and get more growth from that. So the other part of this is that if you have, for instance, primarily focused on social media as a marketing channel, but you're not seeing the scale and growth you want to see in your business, it might be because you need to add in some other channels into your marketing, because the nature of growth is that we have to constantly be moving into a space that we haven't been in before. So if we've been doing social media marketing and that's growing organically, great. But if we want to add further growth, then we might need to look at adding a different channel into our businesses. So I talk about this quite a lot. You can go and listen to the podcast episode on it as well, but short-term versus long-term marketing, it is something I get a lot of questions about. And I also have people who think, oh no, I'm only doing this one. So I just want to clarify a few things for you as we think about this idea of short-term and long-term. So short-term marketing brings cash into your businesses and helps you stay connected on a day-to-day basis. And these types of activities, which is another question I get, like, what is a short-term marketing activity? So we've got things like social media, pay-per-click advertising, and media buying, which is usually like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, then things like influence marketing, running a discount or a sale, and certain types of events. So they bring money into your business, usually between 0 and 48 hours of you taking an action. But the problem is, if you always focus on short-term marketing, then you always have to focus on short-term marketing. So it's really resource intensive, and you either have to spend a lot of time on it if it's something like social media or an organic method or an event, that's a really time intensive thing, or it's expensive financially for things like advertising. But the benefit of short-term marketing is that it brings cash into the business. So it means that your business is sustainable month to month. And then on the other side of the coin, we have longer term marketing, and this makes sure that your businesses continue to grow beyond your personal capacity to post on social media. So this includes things like SEO and email marketing, both of which I'm a massive nerd about, which I'm sure you probably know if you follow me on social media at all. And then other things like PR and overall like brand focused marketing. So it's like this big idea of like your brand and where your brand is moving towards. So if we only focus on long-term marketing, then we don't generate enough revenue in the short term to get to the point where we can benefit from the long-term marketing, because long-term marketing takes longer to see results from. So it helps you build marketing systems and scale your marketing beyond your personal capacity. It also has a higher amount of return on investment, which is a conversation for another time. But the benefits of it are that you don't need to feel tied to channels in order to see sales. But the most important thing for us to remember is that we need both of these if our business is going to last in the long term. And there's also some crossover between our strategies with channels in the short term and long term space. So you can create SEO content that you can post on social media tomorrow, and it will potentially bring in a sale tomorrow. But that blog post, say it's a blog post, is going to bring traffic to your brand for maybe up to 2 years or longer. You can also be building email marketing over time, but send an email out to your current subscribers tomorrow and see sales from that as well. And then the same goes for short-term strategies. So if you're doing paid advertising, that can really help embed your brand in the minds of your ideal customers. So the challenge with lots of us when we run smaller businesses is we spend a lot of time focusing on short-term strategies, but ultimately they can leave us feeling quite burnt out and like we are not able to continue. We get to a point where it just is all too much and we decide, okay, that's enough now. I'm going to go back and work in an office somewhere. So this visual will help you sort of see the different channels in each space. So on the short-term side, we've got social media, discounts and sales, paid advertising, and then things like events where you go and you're selling at an event, or networking at an event where you're specifically trying to acquire clients. And then in the longer term side, we've got SEO and blogging, PR, email marketing, and then networking is in there because when we build up a good network of relationships, not in a sleazy way, but in terms of people who are our wider colleagues in the creative industries, we have the opportunity to do collaborations. Different opportunities come out, and it's an important part of us also having a business that feels enjoyable to be in and not like we're just sat in the back office of our flat working on our own all the time. So the last thing that I'm going to talk to you about as we think about strategy is this idea of doing it from an SEO first point of view, because it's the most efficient. And you can argue with me with that. If you think that I'm wrong, I would love to hear from you if you've got a more efficient way of doing it. But I have been slightly obsessive about this for the last 15 years. So I enjoy doing SEO first marketing because it allows you to repurpose your work, and it means that you're really making the most of your time as a small business owner. So if we think about your website, we do this project for search engine optimization, and we're thinking about how our brand shows up online. And then our SEO work informs our content and our blogging strategy, which again is part of our website. And then from that, you can repurpose your blog posts into social media posts, into TikToks or Reels. Like if you think about a blog where you've got 3 different headings, you could make each of those into a section for a short video for social media. You can also repurpose your blog posts into email emails for your email list. You could make it into a video or a podcast, which both obviously are slightly different types of content, but there's a lot of potential for video in terms of visibility because YouTube is the second biggest search engine. And then obviously Pinterest as well, which is a visual search engine. So when we are doing content creation, this is the most efficient way I've found of approaching it, where we have the groundwork in place, but then actually we can build out everything else from that. And because SEO is based on keyword research and the things that your ideal customers are actually searching in Google, it means that all of your marketing becomes much more customer centric as well. So, that is it for this session. That summary is actually this is part of this. Some of this is part of SEO school, and I've pulled out the relevant bits and added flourishes as I've been talking to you. But the next slide isn't relevant. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen and take your questions. Yeah, if you've got any questions at all, fire them in the chat box. But basically, this is just to sort of help you get excited about marketing every Monday as we start our working week. Marketing is the thing that I encourage business owners to do first in their day because it's the thing that's going to grow your business. So hopefully, as we start our working week with that in mind, these Monday little pep talks can give you a boost and help you feel confident to tackle your marketing. So Sarah has got a question on YouTube. Thanks for joining me, Sarah. And hey, Marco, great to see you as well. So Sarah, let me see if I can actually put this here. Oh, let me do that. So you can probably see my clutter behind me now, but here we are. So Sarah asks a question regarding email marketing. How many emails do you suggest to send per week? And what should these include ideally? Should they be only products? So with email marketing, I have worked with clients where we have one email a week, one email a month, 2 emails a week, 5 emails a week. It kind of varies from person to person. But depending on what kind of business you run, and I assume that we're talking about products because we've got only products here. If you're setting up in email marketing for an e-commerce business, the most efficient approach is to make sure you've got an abandoned cart sequence set up, a welcome sequence. And then if you have a consumable product like let's say candles or notebooks or something that people are likely to use or gift, then you can set up a post-purchase sequence, which kind of sets up a reminder for customers to come back and purchase from you, 4 weeks after purchase. And you can include like a review request as part of that as well. So in terms of emails per week, it really depends on your capacity as a business owner. So when it comes to engaging with your list, you could send 1 or 2 emails a week, but those are quite time-intensive things. So really look at your own capacity, like how often do you want to contact people? And then also remember, these people love your brand enough that they want to get your emails in their inbox. So think about the fact that you might have blog posts or social media posts that are of interest and value to that audience. When we're engaging with people through email, it's not just about let's get them to buy stuff from us. We're also wanting them to become brand advocates for our business and to really engage with us. And we want to make sure that we're providing them with value as well. So when we provide people with inspiration, value, we make their lives easier in some way, it means that they're more likely to come back again in the future and sort of think, oh, I'm going to recommend them to my friends because that was a really great email. So you could do things like behind the scenes. You could do, I always recommend for product business owners, if you're creating a series of products and you're about to launch a collection, track the product development process. Like think about what inspired you to start it, keep your notes and sketches, maybe your mood boards as well, and give your email list a look behind the scenes into your creative process as you are getting ready to launch that collection. So let's say, you've been getting ready to launch a collection for 3 months, you collect lots of information beforehand, and then in the week before you launch the product range, or the 2 weeks before, you send a couple of emails or 3 or 4 emails out to your list that have the story of the range, and you're investing them then in the launch of the collection. They're much more likely to check it out afterwards as well. And if you've got behind the scenes stuff of you packing orders or creating things, that's the kind of thing people love when they're shopping from small business owners. So that's some thoughts on email marketing for you guys. So Hannah has a question. If I'm just starting out with SEO, where do I begin? What is the starting point? So the starting point for your brand should be optimizing your site for branded keywords. Ideally, if you're just starting out, it's very often the case that people might not be ranking for their branded keywords. And part of search engine optimization is reputation management. So we want to make sure that if somebody searches for our brand, they can find our channels and they're not going to come across a competitor or something unrelated to what we do. So I would start with your branded keywords and optimize pages accordingly. I'm not sure, Hannah, if you've done SEO school, but basically I've redesigned all the videos and you can check it out on my website. But basically the first video is like marketing strategy with thinking a bit more about how SEO fits into it, which we haven't done in today's live. And then after that, you will have the SEO action plan in the third video, which gives you a breakdown of the step-by-step process. So you can crack on with it yourself. But that step-by-step process kind of walks you through, okay, how should I approach SEO if I really don't know where to start? So looking at what SEO is important when we're doing search engine optimization, because there's a lot of really poor quality information out there. But then things like looking at what your branded keywords are and installing your Google tools, Google Analytics and Google Search Console is going to help you make sure you're collecting data ready to review when it comes to optimizations in the future as well. So Audrey has a question. Any advice as to how to find the keywords I should use? So yes, I recommend listening to my podcast this week, because I'm literally talking about keyword research all week in the podcast. And we're going to do a Marketing Monday on keyword research specifically in a couple of weeks' time, I think it is. But basically, as I mentioned, start with your brand keywords. Like, what are the keywords related to your brand that if somebody knows about you already, they would be searching for, and make sure that you are optimizing for those to begin with. And then unbranded keywords are things that people might be searching because they're related to the problem you solve or your product or your industry, but they don't necessarily know about you yet. And that's the opportunity that we have to get new customers over to our websites. So the Living House, hey, it's good to see you guys here. We are becoming a brand supporter as a membership for a large Facebook group. Is there any advice you can give for content if considering SEO is important when using Facebook? So SEO on Facebook isn't really a thing. So it's really, when we think about social media and things like Facebook, with our brands, the most important thing is that if someone searches for our brand, they get our website, and then they any other results related to our brand are platforms we control. So our website might be at the top, but then we might want to have our Instagram, our Facebook, our Pinterest accounts showing underneath that, so that we have got the majority share, at least, of the first page of Google for branded search terms. So with social media doesn't impact SEO, and the platforms they're built on are different. So social media like Instagram and Facebook are built on social algorithms, and search engines are built on search algorithms which are keyword driven. Now Instagram has started to roll out the keyword feature, but it's genuinely a rant for another day. But basically, I think they're having a bit of an identity crisis, and it's not actually a search engine, and it doesn't have any net benefit on your business if you optimize your Instagram account for keywords. So because it's like within the internal platform search that you're going to show up. So when it comes to like social media and SEO, the benefit is where people maybe are sharing links to your content, and then people who come to your website from social channels will normally stay on your site for longer. So you'll get more engagement metrics from them. So when we think about someone who visits your website from Facebook, they might read 2 or 3 blog posts because they know you and trust you already, or they might visit 4 or 5 of your different pages. Their average session duration is going to be higher, and all the other engagement metrics that Google tracks. So that's going to have a net positive impact on your search engine optimization as well. Thank you. I'm just going to put this up here. Robin is one of my amazing students inside the SEO bundle. So really grateful for that recommendation. Thank you so much, Robin. And then Marco, not a question, but thanks for your advice about H1, H2 title sequences in blogs a little while back. I used them all appropriately in a blog post yesterday and felt very accomplished. Amazing, Marco. Really glad to hear it. And glad that it was straightforward for you to implement as well. It should have a great benefit on your keywords optimization for those pages. And then we've got someone else. Thank you, guys. It's so good to see my students here. I'm not keeping the stuff on the screen because that's not what our Marketing Mondays are about, but I do really appreciate the kind words, and it's great to see some of my students joining me here as well. So this is a great question, and also an example of how I can't see everyone's names on StreamYard. So I'm really sorry if it's someone I know. So by branded keyword, you mean your business name, correct? So for Marketing with Menexia, I would have Marketing with Menexia as a brand name and Menexia Stewart as a brand name, because my brand is part of me. So I'm like the person, like my name's in the title. So Marketing with Menexia and Menexia Stewart, but then also Marketing with Menexia Contact or Marketing with Menexia SEO course. Like anything that's like our product is something that we want to make sure we're coming up for. So we don't want people to search for our brand and come across bad reviews potentially, because that does happen sometimes with like e-commerce businesses. If someone searches and somebody has put a negative review on an external platform, and that's what we mean about SEO being about reputation management as well. So Audrey, thank you so much. What's the name of your podcast? I'm really glad it was helpful and excited that you're joining me here. My name, the name of my podcast is Creative Business Marketing. So if you want to find it, you can head to my website. There's a podcast tab and it'll take you to the link on Apple or Spotify, but you can just search for it in there as well. And yes, there are a few episodes on marketing strategy. And basically, there's a different theme each week and then a 3-minute episode each weekday. There was one episode that went a bit longer in the marketing strategy section because it just was a more complicated concept to explain, but I've made up for it since by shortening some of the other episodes. So last week we had 5 episodes on SEO basics. Today, the first episode of the keyword research series started. So basically every week there's a theme, and you can check that out on either Apple or Spotify. Does a microblog plugin work the same as normal blogging? Hey Fee. So with your microblog plugin, it depends what platform you're on. So if you're on something like WordPress and you've got a plugin and the content is just being created in a different space, but it's connected to the same domain and the content is like yourdomain.com/blog post title. So it's all on the same domain, then it's good for SEO. If you are having, if it goes out to something like Blogger or Blogspot, then it's not beneficial in the same way. So we want to make sure that anything that we create from a content point of view matches our root domain and isn't like a subdomain like blog.business.com. Subdomains are slightly more complicated, but then we also don't want it to go out to like Medium even. So medium.com, lots of people publish content on there, but it isn't going to bring traffic to your own site per se. So while it's a great platform for visibility and there's ways that you can integrate it, ideally, if we're creating content, we want it to be on our actual domain. Amazing. Oh, the link to Spotify doesn't work on the email. So sorry about that. But I'm glad you've managed to find it in the search. We are 2 minutes to 1. I could literally talk to you about marketing for like the next 90 minutes, but I'm trying really hard to like respect your time and make sure we keep these to 30 minutes. Robin, what's a microblog plugin? It just depends. For some platforms, it's like just an extra thing. You don't need to worry about it at all. It's just for some platforms, putting a plugin on your site instead of a blog post, like area is needed, but don't give it another thought. And if you have any concerns about blog stuff, we can follow up in one of our Q&A calls. I don't know if there's one tomorrow or one next week, but our next student support call anyway, I'm happy to talk with you more about that in detail. Amazing. So I can't see any further questions that I have missed. So do join me next week, and let me see if I can remind myself what the topic is next week. It is keyword research. So was it Audrey who had the question about keywords? Yes, so it was you, Audrey. And so next week we're talking about keyword research. So this week's podcast episodes, keyword research for the next 5 days. And then next Monday, you can bring any questions you've got after listening to the podcast, but I'll also be diving into it in a bit more detail with you with some slides, because I know that slides help the information go in. So, yes, amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. We finished at 1 p.m. on the dot, which is amazing. Hope you have an awesome week, and I'll see you next week for Marketing Mondays, when we will be looking at keyword research. Otherwise, enjoy your next 5 days, and I hope to see you next week as well.